Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. We're joined now by award-winning novelist Jane Foster. Her new book is called Below the Sea Level, or Below Sea Level. It tells a story of how individuals can overcome their addiction, especially when it comes to alcoholism. Jane, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, John.
A question we always like to ask authors and novelists is, tell us a little bit about yourself and, why you felt like you wanted to put your story down in the form of a novel.
Well, John, the reason I titled it that was I, in fact, was born below sea level in New Orleans, where my story is set. And I was actually born drunk. My mother had had too many cocktails that day, and they were unable to give her any anesthesia. No one was there to rush us into a 12-step meeting, and 13 years later, she died of cirrhosis. And I vowed then never to touch the stuff myself, but I did. Anyway, in college, I was an English Lit major, and after college, I worked at Sotheby's for 8 years. And then I had my own jewelry design business in New York. Now I split my time between France and Florida. And I became a novelist because of a conversation, actually. And I first went to my creative writing class in the fall of 2010. And there was a conversation a year later that provoked me into actually using this craft that I was learning to hone. I was having dinner with two college friends, and one of whom is a very successful, powerful man. And he heard me say that my daughter is a recovering alcoholic. And he went on an absolute rant saying, "How dare you say such a thing about your lovely daughter? If anyone finds out she's a recovering alcoholic, no one will ever hire her, and they will think she's a falling down drunk, and you personally are a terrible mother to say such a thing about your daughter." So obviously there seems to be some misconception about what it is to be a recovering alcoholic, and I felt like a lioness to protect her cub that I had to get involved with trying to correct this misapprehension.
Yeah, that maternal instinct, and you're trying to kind of destigmify, I guess.
Yes,
that's really,
yes.
if that's the best word.
Actually, did you know that 1 in 3 families...
Destigmatize, I should say.
Destigmatize, exactly. Did you know that 1 in 3 families have someone suffering from addiction? And actually, people meet many more addiction addicts in the workplace and among their friends. So I really wanted to write to give people hope and a sort of a solution. There is a solution. And
so clearly you were able to overcome being born below sea level, literally and figuratively. Yes. And so the story really has meaning and purpose. What can be useful here in this story that can help people change their lives, do you think?
Well, Below Sea Level demystifies the process of alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers. I talk about a man who goes through rehabilitation in the process of this story. I think this would be very useful to anyone thinking of going into rehab, or some families that might be having loved ones that might need to go. And also, I give a clear example of how addiction wounds the family and the community, and how recovery heals these wounds. And personally, myself, I've had the experience that the power of prayer is transformative. And I've had many people ask me how I pray. So I have a character in my book who explains that exactly.
And tell us a little bit more about your own experience in living with this day in and day out, because I can imagine it is a struggle every single day, because you hear that when you talk to other people who are dealing with recovery.
Well, it's actually not a struggle every day, I'll tell you what happened. As I said, my mother died when I was 13. She was only 39. And even though I really didn't want to have anything to do with alcohol, what I really wanted to be was hip, slick, and cool, And at age 16, I was so uncomfortable at parties that, I started drinking a little bit, And it just made me dance every dance and sing every song and speak every foreign language, and it was just that magic thing. And it just became my very best friend. So that's how it started. And then I just continued because it was so much fun for me to have this other personality. But what happened when I quit was that it wasn't me that quit. It was the obsession was somehow lifted from me. I did things when I was drinking that I wouldn't have ordinarily done, And I said things that I would not have ordinarily said. I even married people I wouldn't have ordinarily married, you know?
Life-changing events.
Yes, really. Didn't make very good decisions.
You just recently talked about the power of prayer, and there's a strong Christian message in this book. Is there some value here for people who are non-Christians maybe, or maybe non-believers, that can help them out through a situation similar to yours?
Well, addiction knows no barriers, you know. It penetrates all religions and all philosophies. So the truth about alcoholism is in this book. It was written from a Christian perspective because that's my life experience.
I mentioned that I've had other discussions with people in recovery, people dealing with addiction, and they talk about the daily struggle. You say that's not really an issue for you, but can someone ever really consider themselves healed fully from an addiction? Once you admit to being an addict, can you ever really consider yourself 100% sober again?
I think that I have to be aware at all times. However, it's not a struggle. When I first stopped drinking, really, I didn't have much knowledge about any higher power or anything. But one woman said something to me so important. She said, "Jane, all you need to know about God now is that his name is not Jane." And this somehow, it was very relieving to me. I don't know why, but it was. Anyway, I didn't know what to do exactly, so I just followed everyone's suggestion that was sober. I did what they suggested, and it was just like how I did anything in life. I mean, I learned to sail a boat and bake a cake and to run my own business. And so I did the same thing. I listened to the experts and I followed their directions. And while I was following other people's directions and suggestions, something outside of myself, a higher power, if you will, relieved me of the obsession to drink. And then I had, for the first time in many years, I had the choice whether to drink or not. And I chose not to drink, and I choose not to drink today. And that's really all that is required of me, just to make that choice on a daily basis.
So is it a cumulative effect of making those decisions, a few times, then more and more, and then it becomes more, that becomes the default for you, and it becomes easier each day?
Well, of course, I have sober reference for all of the times when I used to have to get drunk. I know how to have Christmas without getting drunk. I know how to, go to a party without getting drunk. I have reference for it. But I'm careful, and I don't, if I have no business being in a bar, then I'm not there. If I have a reason to be there, then I go.
What type of reaction have you received so far from the book? Are you hearing from, fellow addicts, people who, have family members? What are people telling you?
I've had incredible feedback from this book. I've just been so touched by people sharing with me their personal experiences with addiction. And I've also read the reviews on Amazon, which gives me a very broad perspective of what people I don't know have they felt. And I'm truly humbled by the effect this book has had on people's lives.
And you're going to have a new book coming out pretty soon,
or no, not
a little
soon.
Further down the horizon? Tell us about it.
I'm halfway through a book the working title is Sliding, and it's about a woman very much like myself, and it's set in New York City in the 1980s. And this woman has absolutely no idea that she's an alcoholic, but she inadvertently drinks alcoholically and causes quite a good deal of trouble. But I don't have to really cause that kind of trouble today, because if I can remember that God's name is not Jane, then I have a pretty good chance of staying sober today. And if I'm sober, I don't have to cause any trouble. And also, I can help another drunk like me get sober.
Still have the same amount of fun without the regret.
Yes, it's a very good way to go.
All right, Jane Foster, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.
The new book is called Below Sea Level. It's available now on Amazon. And we'd love to have you back soon when your new book is ready.
Thank you, John.
We're looking forward to it. And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.